Hello, my fellow pod pilots of New Eden. Ed here, and I've got 5 top tips for the budding solo PvP pilot. For me, solo PvP is the most fun that you can have in EvE. Obviously, it's great to belong to a corp or alliance, form friendships, and create your own story within the game and have others to share it with. But when it's just you, with no Lynx or Falcon or Logi ults against the whole of EvE, just one ship against all the odds out there in the vastness of space, I think there's no better feeling. So I put together a list of 5 things I think will help you get you thinking in that solo PvP way and hopefully encourage you to get out there and try it yourself. So let's start this off in descending order with number 5, the EvE map. Now, many people are very used to this map. They use it to get from system to system and look for where they want to go, where they want to set up home, where their mission agents are. But a lot of solo PvP players might use the map in a different way, and a lot of sort of alliances and corporations that are at war in Deep 0.0 also use the map in this way. And there's a lot of things, a lot of information that you can draw out of this map if you know how to use it properly. So let's have a look at where I am at the moment. So I'm in Heck, and let's say I want to go on a low sec roam, and one of the first jumps that I want to go to is Resbroco, which is 2 jumps out of Heck. So I've got my little ship, I fit it out, and I want to go on a roam through low sec in this area, and I'm jumping into this system. But I want to know if there's anything in that system. Of course, the best way of telling would be to jump in there and have a look, but under this map, so obviously you've got security status selected at the moment, which shows you the security status of it. But if we go to if we go to the statistics section, we can also find out a lot of information about this system before we even jump in there. So let's have a little look. So we've got average pilots in space in the last 30 minutes. This is the average number of pilots that are undocked and in that space. I'm not sure when it sort of calibrates this, but it feels like every sort of few minutes you get a little update of this. So let's select that. So at the moment it says none. Obviously you can see in these high sec systems there's a few. It's just because the server's only just rebooted. So at the moment we haven't got much there, but that will give you a number of 2 or 3, and you think, well, that's not too bad. But if it was showing 20 or 30, you'd think, well, perhaps I'm not going to go in that way. I'm going to find a different route or a different passage in, because perhaps that might be camped, or there's a lot of pilots in that system. And for a solo PvPer, unless you're in anything bigger than a frig, obviously you don't want to go in there. If you're in a frig, it's fine. You can sort of jump past the camps that they've got, unless they've got insta-lock-in SIBO kind of characters there, which of course you want to avoid. So that can give you a lot of information. Obviously, escape pods destroyed in the last 24 hours. As you can see, it says 3 pod destroyed in the last 24 hours, which isn't too many. And we've also got escape pods destroyed in the last hour. As you can see, in this system, a pod's been destroyed. So there's activity within the last hour in that system. This is quite a useful one as well. Jumps in the last hour. So, 13 people have jumped in or out of that system within the last hour. And, you can green some other information. Ships destroyed in the last hour, so there's some activity in this system as well. So you could almost kind of plot your route looking at kind of where the activity is and things like that. So if you select ships destroyed in the last 24 hours, for example, and if we zoom out, you can see here, wow, so okay, something's happening in this system here. 271 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. So I'm not too sure what's going on in that system, but that's quite interesting. So you could kind of use this map to your advantage to plot a route through either 0.0 or low sec to get a good idea of what's out there before you even go there. Now, let's have a little look also, while we're on the subject of the map, which falls quite in with it, is the directional scanner. Now, I'm sure most people know about the directional scanner, but I think it's important, if you don't know about it, just to give you a brief idea of what it's about. So when I press scan and I've got active overview filters up the top there, it will scan for everything that I've selected it to within 14.3 AU of this area. So as you can see, I can scan and I get a list here of everything that's in that area. But say I want to start pinpointing things, like I could select an asteroid belt, I could cut that down to 15 degrees, and I can see that there's a venture probably at that belt, if I select my pod and I get this little thing, I find if you line that up better with that little circle that you get, you can go to a 5-degree scan and see that there's a venture at that belt. Let's just warp there and show you that, just for that sake of doing that. So there you go, and there's that venture mining away. If I was in low sec or 0.0 and I wanted to find a ship, I could use this directional scanner to find things quite easily. So I could narrow the field down, look in the general area. Sometimes it's best to go to sort of 60 degrees, have a spam around like this until you find what you want pop up on it. So, oh, I can see that that's all in that area. That's roughly in that area. I can then cut it down to 15 degrees, move it around, hit scan, go on the station, hit scan, and there I can see all the ships, so I know that they're probably going to be at that location. Now, number 4, fittings. Fittings are massively important in EvE. I've killed enough kind of new PvP pilots to the game that just haven't got a clue how to fit their ships, and I often think how quickly they must get and disappointed in the game, thinking that they're just rubbish at it and, you know, probably log off just because of their fittings aren't good enough. And if they had a better fitting, they could have lasted longer or even killed me. And it's a really difficult part of the game, and there is no right fittings. It's like art, there's no wrong line. Everything is goable, but you can do a lot of things to improve. Now, I cheat, and I will completely admit this, and I think that everyone else should cheat as well. And again, it's like art. You have an artist, and he's inspired by the world that he lives in and the things that he sees, and also by other artists. He might not copy their work, but he'll look at it, he'll adapt it, and he'll do something similar and something creative that he wants to do. It's the same thing with fittings. Now, I steal fittings off of other players and I adapt them to how I like them. I haven't got hours and hours to spend in front of Python or EFT, e-fitting tool, to come up with my fits. So I like adapting them from other people's. So I might go to the Z kill boards and have a look at other people's fittings. I may have seen them in a video that I've liked. I may have come across them in space and seen them perform and think, wow, they must have a good fit. And I'll steal their fitting. So let's have a look at this character, for example, and I can go and have a little look at his fittings. And I can think, well, let's have a little look at how he fits his Brutix. I can copy this. He's probably spent a little while, or he's nicked it off of someone else. He's changed it to his fittings, and he's adapted it for himself. So I can export this, and I can put this straight in to the game, as easy as that from Z Killboard. So you just go to export and DNA, and bang, I can save this fitting, or I can pull it up in Python or EFT and change the fitting for myself as well. So you don't need to guess what modules to put on or how to go about doing it. I find the best way is steal someone else's fit, adapt it for yourself and change it. Once you start getting the hang of what modules can do what and how your what your play style is and how you like to fit things, then of course you can start messing around and coming up with your own fits. You know, I made a Loki that was really good at sort of flying around in 0.0 with an interdicted nullifier and cloaky and killing sort of PvE Plex ships that were out there sort of ratting and stuff. And you know, it took me a good few hours to come up with the fit, and trial and error as well. If your fit doesn't work, or you think, you know, God, I got capped out really quickly, change it a little bit, perhaps put in a cap booster, change it up, mix it around. But definitely have a look at all your favourite players within EvE and steal their fits and have a go in those types of ships. And, you know, steal my fits, because mine are stolen off of someone else's and they're probably stolen off of someone else's. And then there's someone somewhere who can be bothered to take the time to create a fit. Most of the things that don't change too much. If you're going to arm a tank, this could look very similar to a Hurricane fitting, apart from it would have, you know, 220 auto cannons on the top there. So you haven't got too much deviation. It's just about making it fit. And I would definitely recommend stealing fits from other people and then perhaps adjusting them in PyFer or EFT to your liking and to your skills as well. If there are things that you can't use, you may have to change and chop and change, perhaps fitting as well. So that's tip number 4. So number 3, drugs. Drugs are bad, okay? Drugs are good. Drugs, boosters, and implants. You're going to need anything that you can to give yourself the edge in this game, because you're on your own out there, and if you come across 2 or 3 people, you're going to need that edge to give you that. Now, drugs are lots of different types that you can get doing lots of different things. You can get drugs, little pills that you pop which can help with your shield or armor, or you can get ones that can help with your gun tracking, your speed, for example. Now, these are 2 of the most common drugs that I use, which are improved and standard Exile booster and the blue pill booster. Now, I use these when I'm using an active shield or armor tank. Now, the yellow pill, if we have a look at the standard one, once you pop it, it can give you a 20% boost rate to your armor repair. Now, that's massive, but it can come with side effects. So as you can see, all these minus ones here, these have a chance of kicking in. So you've got a 20% chance of getting any one of these, and multiple ones as well. I've had it before where I've popped the pill and I've had almost all of them, and it's completely fucked me up. So it doesn't always work. But if we look at the improved one, we get a 25% repair bonus, which is, it's just really good and can give you that edge you need. And with the blue one, it does exactly the same, but obviously for shields. So that's going to work for your ancillary shield boosters as well as your normal shield boosters. And it works in exactly the same way. It has a chance of creating this side effect. 2 of the most common implants that I use are these 2 here. One is for power grid and one is for CPU. Sometimes you may come up with a fit in PyFer or EFT, or one that you've stolen from someone else, and you're 1% power from being able to fit it. If you fit this, it's a 1 million ISK module, so it doesn't matter if you lose your pod, and this one's 2 million ISK here. I think it's cheaper in Jita. And all they do is this one here gives you 1% more power grid for your ship, and this one here gives you 1% more CPU. You can't use them at the same time, so it's either one or the other, but normally you only have one or the other that you need to fit. You can also get 2, 3, 4%, but obviously it gets more expensive after that. So really good fitting tools. If you've made the ultimate fit but you're 1% out, you can take one of them, pop it in your implant, and that will sort you out. So I obviously urge you to go and check out the implants, attribute enhancers, skill hardwiring and boosters. Now, the attribute enhancers, I could talk for quite a while on this because there are lots of different types. You could get, for example, a crystal clone, which are these here, and if you take all the crystals from each implant slot and put them in, and then put in an omega, you can get a massive boost to your shield rep rate. But if you lose your pod, you lose it all. So they're very risky to use. So be careful when you're thinking about that and how much you're putting into your pod. If you're going to take it out to 0-0, you want your pod to be very cheap. Obviously, have a look through here, all these skill hardwiring ones. You can get ones which could make your missiles hit a little better, or go a little further, or make your tracking a little better. So definitely have a look under this column. Anything that you can do to give yourself a slight increase or a boost towards your performance is definitely worth doing. Now, number 2, game mechanics. Now, this is a massive one, and this is more, I'm going to set this as homework for you, because there is so much that you can learn, and knowledge is power. The more you know about the game and how the game works, the more you can manipulate it in your favor. For example, you need to know how gate guns work, aggression mechanics. For example, if you find that you're not winning the fight but you're near a gate, you could de-aggress, but you'd have to wait 30 seconds before you could jump out. But knowing that could be the price of keeping your ship rather than losing it. I found a link here which is, I just typed game mechanics of EvE into Google and I came up with this, which it gives a brief outline of some stuff. So let's have a look at angular velocity, for example. Angular velocity of EvE is the velocity in radians and seconds at which an object orbits another object. But how does that help within EvE? Guns in EvE have tracking speeds rated in radians per second. This relates to the speed in which the turret can track a target. So it's giving you the information that you need. If you're fighting against a frigate which is orbiting you very quickly, but you have a low tracking gun, then you're not going to be able to hit that ship, or be very lucky to be able to hit that ship. And the knowledge of the mechanics within EvE is just massively important, and the more that you know, the more that you can do. So I'm not going to touch on this anymore. As this, for this tip, all I'm going to say is learn the game and the mechanics within it, and there are lots of reference points, and if you are interested in all the different types of mechanics that are in EvE, write a comment and tell me, and perhaps I might do a video specifying some of the different things. There's loads of crazy stuff, like missiles, for example. Missiles travel at a certain speed. If you're orbiting or moving away from a target as he's shooting you, you might be able to hit him with your missiles, but because the direction that you're going in, he can hit you with his. So it's just gets so complicated after a while. But the more that you know, the more that you can take into the game, and the better chances that you're going to have. Knowledge is power. So tip number 2 is homework: learn the game mechanics. And tip number 1, the biggest tip that I can give, and you're going to laugh at this one, but undock. Use that button. Don't wait for an FC to come on, or join a group of 20 people, or wait for so many people to come along. Get out there. Undock. You're never going to get better sitting there reading stuff, looking at stuff all the time. You have to get out there and be willing to lose ships. You're going to lose ships all the time if you're solo PvPing. You're just going to jump into a camp and instantly die the first time that you do it, maybe, but don't let that put you down. Undock. Just make sure that you get out there. I can't stress that enough. People always say, I get mails and I get comments on my things, oh, I wish I could try solo PvP in that, and you can. All you have to do is fit out a ship and hit that undock button. And I don't think enough people do that. Everyone's quite happy sort of ship spinning, or waiting to form up in a fleet, or just doing missions until the battle happens. But you could get out there and you could go and lose a few ships and have some massive enjoyment out of it. But you have to get out there and give it a go. I'm just going to say this now. How do you judge your enjoyment of the game? Do you judge your enjoyment by your kill board, or do you judge the enjoyment of your game by the playing of it? So that's about it. I think this video's gone on quite long enough, and I hope you've learned something from it. If you have, please give me a thumbs up or a like, or if there are other things within this that you'd like me to touch upon and perhaps maybe do another video, please do, and write in the comments. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope it did help in some way or another. I'm sure for sort of veteran PvP pilots it doesn't mean anything, but hopefully for people that are new or wanting to get into solo PvP, hopefully there was a couple of things that you could take there and use within your game. Anyway, till next time, fly wonky, and remember, undock.